a framework by which we can end sexual violence. So it tries to create a framework so that we can put our efforts in the direction of creating an end to sexual violence. Apart from trying to create a framework to end sexual violence, the Metoo movement also tries to give the victims of sexual violence a voice. Many times the perpetrators, they go scot-free because the people who were their victims, they did not speak out. And why they did not speak out? Maybe they were afraid, maybe the conditions were such, maybe the structures were such which prevented them from speaking out. They were afraid, they were marginalized. Now this Me Too movement tries to give these victims a voice. It seeks to start larger conversation about these issues, the systemic issues, which prevent people from speaking up against these kind of incidents. It also wants to create a shift in the culture. It wants to bring about a cultural transformation. A culture in which women have been subjugated, women have been discriminated, women have faced different kind of violence and they have not been able to speak out. To a culture in which these kind of systemic inequalities is not there, systemic discrimination is not there. A culture in which women can work without any threat of sexual harassment or sexual violence. This movement also tries to create a community of survivors who can move forward together. Those who have been victims of sexual violence, they are going to form a community. We are trying to create a community of these people, the survivors. They will be together, and since they are together, they can. There is a unity among them. There is a support among them. They help each other out. As a result of which, it helps them move ahead. It helps them move forward. Me Too movement also tries to scale up these kind of organizations. It tries to get resources. It tries to get support for these kind of organizations. It also aims to provide leadership, training and development to these survivors. The focus is on healing and survivorship. Those who have faced sexual violence, those who have faced sexual harassment, they might have been impacted physically. At the same time, they might have also been impacted mentally. They might have faced mental trauma as well. So, since women themselves, they're forming a community, they're helping each other out, they're hearing each other out, they're empathetic to each other's pain, it can also help in the healing process. Many times what happens is, a female is there, she faced sexual harassment at workplace, but she's not able to speak out. She's not able to share her issues with others. It creates an even more traumatic experience. But Me Too movement is creating a community of survivors. Women are hearing each other out. Sometimes men are also hearing the victims. So this also helps in the healing process, helps heal the wound that has been created by it. The motto of the Me Too movement is empowerment through empathy. We all know what is the meaning of empathy. General Studies, paper 4. We understand the difference between sympathy, empathy, all these things. So you are trying to empower someone, and it is through empathy. You are listening to someone, you are putting yourself in that person's position, trying to understand what this position would have faced. And through that, you are trying to empower this individual. So the Me Too movement is about all these things. Try to create a framework to end sexual violence. Try to bring about a cultural transformation. Try to start a conversation. Try to give voice to those victims. Try to create a community of survivors who help each other. Provide training, leadership, development of personalities. Focus on healing, survivorship. And finally, what is the motto of this movement? Now, the next thing that can come to our mind is how it started in the first place, this Me Too movement. This has been in the political discourse, social discourse for the last couple of years, 2017, 18, it was there in the news. But did it start from there, or does it have roots in the past? Now, this term Me Too, what is the origin of this term Me Too? Who is the person who is credited for using the term Me Too for the first time in this context? Now, if we are going to trace the history of the Me Too movement, we have to go back to 2006. Yes, it has been in the news in 2017-18, but Me Too movement can be traced back to 2006. So keep this in mind. These kind of things can be relevant for your prelims exam as well. In prelims exam, sometimes UPSC tries to confuse you. When was the first time this Me Too term was coined? So keep this in mind. Some facts can be relevant, and for mains also it is important, but prelims it can be more important. So in 2006, this term Me Too, the way it is being used for Me Too movement, was used for the first time. Who is the person who is credited for it? Tarana Burke. She's an African American civil rights activist. She is credited for using the term, for coining the term Me Too. She was taking an interview of a female who was in her teen, 14, 15-year-old female. Now, this female had been sexually harassed, had been molested by her mother's boyfriend. So, she was interviewing her, and that particular female was kind of afraid. She was not in the right frame of mind to talk about all these things. So, Tarana Burke, she told her that you are not alone. This thing has happened to me too. So, from this statement, from this interview, this Me Too movement came into being. That is how we can trace the roots of Me Too movement. So, she started a campaign in 2006 after that. But in recent times, this Me Too movement gained momentum because of another reason as well. Now, this Me Too movement in recent times became a global phenomenon on 15th October 2017, from that period onwards. So what specifically happened? Now, Elisa Milano, she made a Twitter post. She posted on Twitter, she tweeted, and she requested victims of sexual assault to speak out. She tweeted that if you have been sexually harassed or assaulted, write Me Too as a reply to this tweet. And consequently, many women who had faced some sort of sexual harassment, they replied on the same Twitter post. So, from that point onwards, this gained momentum, and from different countries, women started talking about Me Too. They also posted that. So, it was found that in around 195 countries, people had posted about Me Too. That is how it spread from one place to different other places throughout the world. And one thing was also there that 10 days before this incident, there was an investigative article by New York Times, and it found that Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein, he had been involved in different cases of sexual misconduct. Many women had made allegations against him for sexual misconduct. So 10 days before this has happened, and Elisa Milano is tweeting, and now women are responding back with Me Too, that they have also faced sexual assault at different points in their life. Jodie Cantor and Megan Toei, they won the Pulitzer Prize for their investigative journalism. So this is how this movement, the campaign, which was initiated by Tarana Burke at some point of time, and which is again gaining momentum in 2017. So two different reasons. And later on, Elisa Milano, she is recognizing that Tarana Burke was the first person who had coined this term. She is also giving credit to Tarana Burke later on. In the initial phases, not too late, initial phases of the movement. So when it comes to the evolution of Me Too movement, keep these two things in mind. How Tarana Burke, she started this campaign after she interviewed someone who had faced molestation at the hands of her relative, and then how in 2017 a new thing is happening and which gives momentum to the movement. But one thing here, have we ever had any other instance of online campaign? See, you can note here that from 2017 onward, the campaign that was there, it was primarily an online movement. From Twitter, it went on to Facebook, it went on to Instagram as well. But have we seen similar kind of online movements before related to issues faced by women? Now, there have been some movements in the past. One or two movements, we'll just look at their names and what were they about. In 2014, there was an online movement in Iran. Name of the movement was Still the Freedom. It was also taking place in the cyberspace. Now, what was happening here? In Iran, women, they were posting their photographs in public places without their hijabs. So basically, they were questioning the authorities, questioning the regime, which was imposing a particular kind of moral code on them. So they went to the public place, removed their hijab, and they used to post their photos online. Apart from that, another movement in the cyberspace in recent time was the nude photo revolutionary movement in 2011 in Egypt. So here, one particular activist, female activist, Alia Magda Al-Madi, she posted her nude photos, and again with her there were some other females as well. They posted their nude photos online. So through these photos, Alia Magda and the women over there, they were trying to make a political statement. They're trying to make a statement about agency, morality, and autonomy. They're questioning the different kind of cultural subjugation, the different kind of cultural norms, the different kind of norms more related to morality. They're questioning the different kind of political structures over there. So this was also in the news immediately after the photo. A lot of hashtag movements were created, a lot of comments were there on it, and again it created a ripple at that point of time. So these two particular movements you can mention in your answer in case there is a question related to social movements and online space and women. Now, the next thing, how this Metoo movement is gradually spreading. How do we analyze it? The spread of the movement. Now, there are some data pointers related to Metoo movement. From that, we can understand the spread of the movement. Now, it was found that by September 30th, 2018, almost 1 year, the hashtag #MeToo. We all know what is a hashtag. We use these hashtags in Facebook, on Instagram, on all the social media. So this particular hashtag #MeToo was used 19 million times on Twitter. That too in only English language. If you take other languages, it will be even more. And if you count it, it will be more than 55,000 times per day. That is the number of times it was used. And some analysis of the usage of these hashtag finds out that two kind of interactions were there. First kind of interaction was of celebrities or the entertainment industry. Second kind of interaction was about personal stories. People were talking about their own stories, how they have faced different kind of sexual harassment. The other one, celebrities or entertainment industry, how the different celebrities faced different kind of sexual harassment. So it was a massive movement. 19 million times this particular hashtag was used. Now, multiple cities, they trended on different dates. On different cities, this hashtag trended. At 195 countries in the world, we saw this particular hashtag. Now, Google created one particular web page for it. It was called as Metoo Rising. Now, Metoo Rising is nothing but a data visualization tool. Now, if you go to this particular web page, you just search it online and you will find it. So they will show different countries, different cities. And they will also show the intensity, with what intensity this Metoo hashtag was used. In case of India also, you will see the different places in India, they're getting lit up. So wherever this particular trend was there, that particular place is getting lit up. So this Metoo Rising was a data visualization tool created by Google and which helped us analyze these things. So 195 countries in the world had some instance of this, and different cities had this Metoo hashtag. The trending was there of this Metoo hashtag at different points of time. Bloomberg pointed out that at least 425 prominent people from different industries have been accused of sexual misconduct. And this sexual misconduct can be of different types. It can be because of some lewd comments, it can be because of abuse of power, or it can be even some extremely serious offenses, grave offenses like serial rape. So 425 people have been accused of different kind of sexual misconduct. And all these things came to light because of the Metoo movement, or as it was going underneath. So this is how the movement is spreading. But in case of India, how it is happening, how it is gradually spreading. In case of India, we find that the Metoo movement is spreading in two phases. First wave and the second wave. Now, what is this first wave of Me Too movement in case of India? Now, the first wave in India was brought out by a law student named Raya Sarkar. Now, Raya Sarkar created a list of, or she initiated the creation of a list of sexual harassers in academia. This particular list was referred to as LOSHA. So, in academic institutions, many professors, there were allegations against them of sexual misconduct. For example, PhD guides. So, all these professors who had on whom there were allegations of sexual misconduct, they were put in one list, and this list was referred to as the LOSHA list. Now, this list was circulated in social media. People could also add names to names of those who had who might have created these kind of scenario for them. So there was widespread coverage of this particular list. But again, when this list came out, or when this thing was being circulated, now there was a dispute, or what you can say is there was an intergenerational conflict. Now there were some women, generally the older generation, they were of the view that due process of law should have been used to settle allegations of sexual harassment rather than putting a list. But then there were some people, some women from the younger generation, those who are the more tech-savvy group of feminists. Now, they felt that these established processes of law, they are not sufficient for giving justice. In fact, sometimes these established processes of law, whatever has been created or whatever institutions we have to provide justice, they do not provide justice. Rather, this entire process of getting justice is punitive to the victims. The victims, they are more harassed by the process. So this kind of debate was sparked at this point of time, when this LOSHA, the list of sexual harassers in academia, came out. So this is the first wave of Me Too movement. Now there was this second wave of Me Too movement, and this is the wave which was more in the limelight. LOSHA was not that in the limelight. In 2018, the Me Too movement gained momentum, and this Me Too movement, this phase of Me Too movement was basically the second wave. Now here what is happening? Now this movement was triggered on Twitter. And how it is being triggered on Twitter? One writer, poet, Mahima Kukreja, on Twitter, she made allegations against a stand-up comedian. Stand-up comedian Utsav Chakravarti. Now, Utsav Chakravarti had worked on some videos with AIB. Now, he had been an employee of AIB in the past, but in recent times, when the allegations came out, he was providing some freelance material to AIB, but AIB used to collaborate with them. AIB is basically a group which creates content, which creates comic content online, as well as they have their own stand-up events. So, Mahima Kukreja made allegations against Utsav Chakravarti, and that gradually caught up. Now, more and more women came up, and they also talked about their own stories, Me Too stories. And just before that, or at more or less at the same point of time, actress Tanushri Datta, she also made allegations against Nana Patekar for harassing her on the set of a film in 2008. This was also there. Gradually, more and more women are coming up, making allegations against people who have harassed them in the past. In fact, there was allegation against the then cabinet minister, union minister, MJ Akbar. So, 20 women, they came out and made allegations against MJ Akbar. MJ Akbar had been editor of some prominent newspapers, magazines in the past. So his colleagues, women colleagues, they made allegations against him. MJ Akbar had to resign, but he also filed a criminal defamation case against these women. Apart from these incidents, there were some other major allegations as well. Some veteran actors like Alok Nath, allegations were made against them. Directors, producers, against them allegations were made. Vivek Agnihotri, Sajid Khan. So many cases came out. People in media, design, advertisement industries, entertainment industries, many names started coming in these areas as well. So this was the second wave of Me Too movement, and which got more limelight in case of India. Now, Some people, some commentators, they said that this Me Too movement in case of India was restricted primarily to the urban elite. But if you look at the data visualization tool, Metoo Rising, you will observe that this thing was not restricted only to the urban elites. Those who have the laptops, smartphones, who can understand this online vocabulary, not necessarily it was restricted only to them. These trends show that in many rural places or smaller towns, from there also people were observing these trends, people were also using these hashtags, people are also making the allegations. Places like Chikalim in Goa, Maharashtra's Bhusawal, Punjab's Zirakpur, Banverli in Chhattisgarh, from these places also we had these trends. So not necessarily it was restricted only to the urban elites. In rural areas also, in interiors also, in smaller towns also, this particular hashtag was used. It was driven by people using their smartphones and their laptops. And the women who had been victims, they shared their own narratives, their own stories, and they shared the screenshots of the conversations they had with the perpetrators. WhatsApp conversations, or the conversations could have been in different dating apps, Tinder or Truly Madly or some other app. Rituparna Chatterjee, she's a prominent journalist. Now, what she did was she created an informal collective of journalists and activists. So, basically, a group of women, mostly women. Now, they are now helping others. So, women who did not want to be named. So, what they are trying to do, they are telling their story to this particular collective of women, which is being informally handled by Rituparna Chatterjee. So they are telling them their stories, and this particular informal collective is putting it out in the public domain. Many women who lacked the voice or who feared repercussions, they were not telling the story directly. They were not coming out in the open, but rather they were taking the help of these particular kind of organizations. So hundreds of direct messages on Twitter used to come to them, and they used to compile all these things together. Now, what were the drivers of this movement? How this movement is gaining momentum, or what could have been the possible reason why this movement is becoming very strong? Now, major driver here is the social media. Now, the power of social media has been immense when it comes to organizing a campaign. In fact, social media has been used in political campaigns and other kind of campaigns as well. So social media has played a very important role here. Now, what are some of the features of social media which makes it an effective tool for campaign? First thing, in social media, things are unfolding in real time. It is an interactive and participative medium. You can directly interact with people. If someone makes an allegation or tells his or her story, other people can interact with them. They can understand. They can also relate that they might have also faced a similar kind of situation. So you are interacting, you and others are gradually participating. If one female tells her story that this particular person harassed me, there can be other women who might have faced harassment from the same person. So they might now come together. So people are now participating in the process. So it is kind of a medium which emboldens others who have also faced similar kind of issue. So many were emboldened to know that their stories and their voices are mattering. Social media is also a forum by which you can rally support. You can rally voices around. It can also help in highlighting an issue. If a lot of people start talking about the same kind of thing, so trends are created, a particular issue gets highlighted, and once that issue gets highlighted, it might be covered by other forms of media. The audiovisual media, it will also cover it. The print media, they will also cover it. So you rally support, you tell your own story, you get support, people participate, and it can be taken forward by other forms of media. So basically, you are able to divert people's attention to a particular cause. Also, social media is a kind of platform which is ideal for social justice movements. Now, just think about it. If there is a victim, now traditional methods of justice, if you look at it, if there is a victim, she might have to go to the police or she might raise a complaint in the police station. But here what is happening is she can act as a storyteller. In the previous scenario, she is a survivor. She is now dependent on other channels. But here, she is setting the agenda. She tells her own story. She is not dependent on others. She is not just a complaint. So, here, the victims, they are handling the entire scenario in their own terms. They're doing it in their own terms. The traditional methods, again, you might be dependent on others there. So you do not set the terms. And in case of countries like India, what happens is the victim might go to the police station, but she might be shamed. The police officials, the administrative officials, the court officials, they might not be sensitive to these kind of issues. So sometimes what happens is this particular victim might be blamed. But here it is not the same thing. You are handling things according to your own terms, and in the process you are also getting support from others. You are becoming bolder because people are rallying for you, people are participating. Some people might have faced the same thing, they're also coming together. So it also strikes a chord with people who feel similarly. So all these factors are playing the role of drivers for this movement. They are the ones who are making the movement stronger. But also another thing was observed was that this movement is also getting weaker over a period of time. Some surveys, some reports are pointing out. Now, what could be the reason could have led to weakening of this movement? Now, it has been observed that some of the celebrities, they returned to work. Many politicians, against whom allegations were there, they also were planning to come back, make some comebacks. For example, celebrities like people like Alok Nath, they have already started coming in movies. The trailers of the movies are also out. Politicians, for example, MJ Akbar, against whom allegations were there, he has also started writing articles on different newspapers and magazines. So they are also coming back. In US, Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, we also saw that he is also coming back. Allegations were made against him, but he was elevated. Apart from that, there were some surveys. For example, in September 2018, a survey was conducted by YouGov on behalf of the magazine Economist. And it pointed out that there has been a small but clear shift against the victims. Now, what was this shift? What did this survey find out? Now, the survey pointed out that men who sexually harassed women at work 20 years ago should keep their jobs. This particular perception that men who have harassed a woman 20 years ago, this particular perception, how many people supported this particular point of view? This support increased. Last year it was 28%, now 36% people support that these particular men who have been perpetrators of sexual harassment, they can go back to work. So previously only 28% people used to support last year when Metoo movement was more prominent. Now, almost after 1 year, 36% people support this point of view. So gradual shift against the victims is taking place. And then there were some suspicion related to Metoo movement. For example, there were some people who were of the view that there might be some political vendetta here. This particular politician, they're targeting this politician. They're targeting the government because he's part of this particular minister is part of the government. So there were different kind of suspicions, and these kind of narratives are also being created that it is a vendetta. So there were these are the instances which point out that the movement could have been weakened. But this particular movement, Metoo movement, also had some lacuna. There were some challenges to the Metoo movement as well. It is playing some positive role. It is giving voice to the victims. It is creating a community. Women are helping each other out. It is aiming to create a transformation in culture. But at the same time, there are some issues with this movement, or there are some challenges with the movement. Now, what are some of the challenges here? The first challenge is of accountability. Now, I told you how allegations were made. In many instances, anonymous messages used to be there. People will post anonymously that they have been harassed by so and so person. Anonymous screenshots will be there. And the online medium, social media is such that people might believe these anonymous screenshots. So, not necessarily the person who has been named has committed that particular crime, but his character is being assassinated. It might have long-term consequences on his career. It can have long-term consequences on his lives, can put them in different kind of dangers. So this anonymity could be dangerous. Apart from that, we did not have much mechanism for ensuring accountability in the way allegations were made in social media. Anyone can post anything. So how do you ensure that there is some basic accountability here? Apart from that, not much mechanism of verification what is being posted. You post something, but who is going to verify it? And verification is not there, but people keep on retweeting the same thing, people keep on sharing the same thing, it is reposted multiple times. And also, social media, specifically Twitter, it is highly opinionated medium. People have strong opinions. And whenever there is this strong opinions, language is coarse, it becomes very difficult to engage in a debate or a discussion. So, not much possibility of engaging in a fruitful discussion by which we can find a solution. So that also becomes a little difficult. Apart from that, some allegations were found to be a result of vendetta. People wanted to settle accounts. So those things were also there. Sometimes these allegations were also there. Sometimes it also becomes very difficult to find the difference between a ruined relationship or a toxic relationship and sexual harassment. The boundary lines can also be difficult. Sometimes there were instances of a toxic relationship. Boyfriend, girlfriend, they were there, they were in a relationship in the past, but gradually the relationship became sour. And one person happens to be a celebrity. So again, whether this is a relationship becoming sour or whether it is sexual harassment, it becomes difficult to understand. And since the medium is such, the celebrity tends to be blamed and his or her career can get impacted. So this was the challenge. Accountability was a major issue. But those who are collecting all these anonymous screenshots, those who are putting them together, those who are compiling all these incidents, they said that they are trying their best to ensure some form of accountability. They said that they are trying to be as meticulous as possible. For example, they were saying that whenever they are getting any screenshot or whenever a female is making an allegation and she does not want to be identified in that particular Metoo story, they would say at least give us some details. We will not put it online, but we will have it with ourselves. So finally, when you are posting it online, your personal details will not be there, but at least we should have it. So that way, some accountability can be ensured. So email, phone numbers, they were trying to ask, or they were asking them to give some evidences of WhatsApp conversations or emails. So internal checks they were trying to increase. Apart from that, they're saying that in case there is an allegation against someone who is prominent, those who are trying to compile records they were trying to do is they were trying to put together cluster of multiple accounts who had been accusing the same harasser. So that also makes the case stronger. If there is an accusation against one person, if multiple women are making similar kind of accusations, the case also becomes stronger. High chance that this person has harassed so many women. So many women will not be lying against one person. So some element was there of accountability, but not complete transparency was not there in the process.